Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. Recently, I released a video here on the channel in which I spoke about a methodology that could be employed by collectors, investors, or speculators to evaluate whether it makes sense to get a book graded or not. There were a couple of people that falsely assumed that this methodology was only for speculators. I personally believe that this is something that can be used by anybody to evaluate whether it makes sense to spend more money on a book to get graded or not. As a collector and investor myself, I'm always giving thought to, does it make sense to actually spend this money or not? Regardless of whether I love a book or not every book has to be graded, so I'm always trying to use my head in addition to my heart to make sure that I'm making the most informed decision possible. There was an element that I did not include in that previous video that I want to talk about here, and it is specifically the turnaround time for getting a book graded. Now, I will tell you that turnaround time is not the biggest factor to consider when you're evaluating whether you send a book or not, but it is something that you should at least be aware of. Awareness is important, right? Potentially you are sending that book in and you've made the decision that this is a book that is going to stay in your collection forever. You should at least be aware of how quickly you're going to get that book back, how long it's going to be out of your possession. Potentially, you are getting that book graded because you want to turn around and sell it so that you can use those funds to maybe buy something else. Potentially, you want to get that book back so that you can go to an upcoming con and try to work a deal to trade that book. So again, having some awareness and understanding of what is happening with turnaround times is important. I will also tell you that the turnaround times are not the same between the grading companies, so it's important to kind of tease that out. An additional element here to think about is that there are actually multiple turnaround times and also potentially delays. There is a turnaround time associated with getting that book cleaned and pressed. There is an additional turnaround time for the grading. But there at the front end, there is also an intake delay, if you will. So it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks after the book is sent and received before it even enters the queue to be graded or cleaned and pressed. So again, these are time parameters that you want to be aware of. The other thing I'll mention here is that the turnaround time is always in business days, so it doesn't include weekends or holidays. So here's the question. What is the current turnaround time right now for CBCS and CGC? Let's get into it. All right, let's go ahead and look at the turnaround time for CBCS. We'll also look a little bit at the cost here as well. So we are on the pricing and turnaround times page on CBCScomics.com. And you can see here, we'll skip over that any year with that premium cost of $200 and look specifically at the new section here. You can see that they have a 30-day, a 20-day, and a 10-day turnaround time. It's important to note here that they tease out the modern age a little bit differently on CBCS. They have a new section, which is 2001 to the present day. But also below they have the modern, which runs from 1975 to 2000, and you'll see why that's relevant here in a moment. But for the purpose of this, we're going to look specifically at their standard time, right? So for a new comic to be graded, it is $22 and it takes 30 days. That is their standard cost. When you look at modern, it increases to $24. So let's look at the pressing turnaround times. And again, skipping over that any year with that premium price there. So we have here now they've grouped new and modern into one bucket. So it is the same turnaround time, the same price for new and modern comics. And you can see that their standard turnaround is 20 days at $15. So between those two, we're basically looking at 50-day turnaround time and $37 to get a book cleaned, pressed, and graded by CBCS if it happens to be a new comic. If it's modern, it goes up just a little bit from there. All right, so let's go ahead and flip over to CGC to see what their offering happens to be. And we're on basically the same page here. This is the CGCcomics.com submit page. And here we have their services and fees kind of spelled out. And again, it's important to remember we're talking about business days only. This is not holidays. It is not weekends. So looking at the grading first here for CGC, specifically for a comic. And again, we're going to look at modern here. They've grouped it together. So 1975 to the present day. They don't tease it out the way the CBCS does. Your fee for that is $27 and the turnaround time is 40 days. We're not going to look at any of the fast track stuff or the non-standard stuff. We're going to keep it very generic here. If you go vintage and you do pre-1975, the cost goes up to about $42 and the turnaround time is 95 days. Let's go ahead and look at the pressing tab here, and I'll make this a little bit larger so that you guys can see that. We'll scroll down here. And again, for a modern comic, 1975 to present, your cost is going to be $12 and your turnaround time is 40 days plus grading. And that plus grading is an important part here. So when you're looking at CGC, you're looking at roughly an 80-day turnaround time between clean and press. Your cost for a modern comic is going to be about $39, a couple of bucks more than CBCS, but also 30 days longer in terms of your turnaround time. If you go up to the vintage level, your cost for pressing goes up to $30, but your turnaround time remains the same. And again, it's important to remember here that the turnaround time does not include that initial delay getting things into the system to start the process of either clean press or grading. So there you have it. I just wanted to share that information with folks so that you guys, again, can make the most informed decision possible about whether it makes sense to get a book, grade it or not, but then also how long is it going to take? And the important thing to remember is what can happen during that time if time is of the essence. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I want to invite you to do that. If you want to reach out to me, you can do it on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care. I am in the middle of the editing process for this video, and I realized that I did not tell you about the promo code that CBCS has sent over to me. Until the end of this month, April 2025, if you use promo code RegieSave10, you can take 10% off all grading and pressing services. And no, I don't make anything off of this, but you can save yourself a couple of bucks.
Turn me up in my headphones a little bit, like I want to feel it, I want to hear it. All right, that's it right there. I spoke. When the sun rise, till it's burned out. No place to recharge, so we gotta learn how. Conversations with OGs that got dreams that never worked out. So they become masters of dream analysis. They come in the form of barbers and schizos. Warhead with a big nose with his lip.